Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show and welcome to a celebratory episode of the podcast as I am going to talk about the landmark and milestone issue that is Detective Comics number 1000 from DC Comics. Now, I realize that Detective Comics number 1000 came out, cover dated May 2019. But it's taken me a while to to take all the notes I did for this issue. And if you listen to the most recent The Gutters episode, you know that I have been taking a bit of a break from the podcast, but I am back, at least for now. I will be going on vacation this summer for those listening in the future. This is the summer of 2019. And so I'll have some more shows down the road a bit coming up here. But for now, this episode is, like I said, about Detective Comics 1000. So last year I did, I think it was around summertime of last year, I talked about the milestone issue that was Action Comics number 1000. And of course, I could not do a focus on Detective Comics 1000 if I did one on Action. So I plan on going through the issue just like I did the previous Action Comics 1000. I'll talk about all of the various stories and give you some thoughts about this issue as a whole, and we'll just go from there. We'll start. So this is 82 years of Detective Comics. And 80 years, if I got my math right, 80 years of Batman in Detective Comics. I always found it funny because Detective Comics is what DC Comics took its name from eventually. So whenever you say DC Comics, you're actually saying Detective Comics comics. And I always get a nice little chuckle whenever I think about that. But anyway, as it says here on the cover, and I have the Steve Rude 1930s variant, whereas with the Action Comics cover, I went with the main cover, and I had wished now that I had gotten a different variant of the Action Comics, and so that's why I got the Steve Rude variant. But while I love this cover because I like the gothic noir aspects to it, with Batman there. There's lightning flashing in the background. You got bats in there and in the background. You got this gothic looking mansion, and you got these. I'm assuming cultists attacking a woman. I presume they're about ready to sacrifice her for some, Cthulhian thing. or some such, but it looks like, I think it's a painted cover too. I mean, it just looks great, and evokes the Batman of that period to me. So that's why I got it. But I have to say, I kind of wish I'd gotten the Michael Cho 1950s cover, mostly because Robin was featured on that cover, and I just really like Michael Cho's art. But anyway, I got the Steve Rude cover. I really enjoy it. Let's see what else here. So I guess generally speaking, I enjoyed these stories for the most part. There's a few clunkers in here, as a collection like this would have. But my major complaint, and I hate to start off with a complaint, is that I realize that Detective Comics is a Batman book and has been for decades. But I would have really liked to see a few more stories, or at least a story, one more story featuring other detective characters that have appeared in Detective Comics. Now, I can't say that I know a whole lot about that. Actually, I'm assuming other detectives have been featured in Detective Comics. I mean, I presume that's why the people who created Detective Comics would have had stories about detectives, because that was the whole point. And then Batman came along later. Anyway, but that leads us to the first story, called Batman's Longest Case by Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo, Jonathan Galapian, FCO Placencia, and Tom Napolitano. This was an 8-page story. Let's see. First, when I first read this, I was getting into the various steps of the investigation that Batman is going through. If you notice, in one panel there early in the story, Batman has a purple glove. I think it's in the top right panel of, page 2. He's got his purple gloves, which is how that's what Batman wore when he first started out. I thought that was a nice callback, a nice throwback to that time period. So, we're seeing elements of his past. We see him with the yellow oval bat on his chest, all the way up through more modern day when it's his present day costume. So we get the sense of time passing as he's investigating this ultimate case. And then, you read this, you get to the end, and you find out that there's this guild of detection that Batman has finally figured out where they are, and everybody's just kind of sitting around waiting for him, I should say. I just thought it was a weird story. If this was a story to, I guess, celebrate Batman as a detective, it was left me very wanting, because while he's going through the motions of figuring out this case and has been doing so for years in this story, the fact that he comes in and there is the Detective Chimp, there is Slam Bradley, you've got Hawkman and Hawkwoman, John Jones, the Question, and what looks to be like Elongated Man and his wife, which I'll talk about in a second. And even more, because if you look in the background, there's a couple of people looking at some books at a bookcase. So it's a bunch of different detectives who have joined this guild by following clues and arriving at this one place. So it makes you wonder, do all these people greet new members like this? I was really into this until we get to that point. And while I like this idea of a detectives guild, which, by the way, why the Guild of Detection instead of the Detectives Guild? Weird wordplay from Mr. Snyder, I think. But anyway, like I said, I like the setup. The promise of all these unsolved cases. So here are all these cold cases that Batman can explore and solve. Because this just opens up the possibility, the opportunity for future Batman writers and artists to delve into the case books, the guild's case books, and Batman can solve them. So you need a fill-in story or fill-in arc for Batman. You've got it. You've got this opportunity here. So I like that. I like that setup a lot. So it's just the end was really weird. And then Batman arrives, finds out that it was some sort of, not a game, but some sort of setup. And he starts to say something along the lines of, he even says that, actually, I don't understand. This was all some kind of elaborate game, a waste of, and then Slam Bradley interrupts him, and we get the background there. So Batman's starting to get ticked that his time has been wasted on this case. But really what it is, like I said, this library contains all these cold cases and blah, blah, blah. And then they lead him to a particular, Slam explains it here. Some of the books are as old as recorded history, maybe unsolvable. Some are brand new. And Batman says, I need to know, why are you just inducting me now? And the response is, open any case and take a look. I think you'll see that, buddy, you're always only at the very beginning. And Batman's reaction is, so he's looking at the book and his eyes go wide. And that's all you see is Batman wide-eyed, and he's going, wow. What? Now, longtime listeners will know I've had a bit of a not love-hate, but sort of like that relationship with Scott Snyder's writing. He doesn't always do it for me. I enjoyed his New 52 Batman run for a while. It took a little bit of getting used to, but that, I don't know, to me, that just pulls me out of the whole story even more. And this does not ring true to me. Doesn't, in my headcanon, that's not Batman. I don't understand where we're going with this, what this is supposed to be. But I do like the setup. And I really enjoyed seeing Greg Capullo, and Jonathan Glapian's art on here. But I will have to, one note I will say on that first page, the splash page where we first see Batman and we get introduced to this Longest Case story, it almost looks like some other artist drew that. And ever since I read this, back in, I guess it would have been early April, because I didn't get it until April, even though it came out at the end of March. I have been racking my brain to figure out, who does this remind me of? And I still can't place it. It's really bugging me. But anyway, so like I said, I enjoyed it to a certain degree. But man, there's some things in here is like, I don't get it. So maybe you can explain it to me. What was the point of this? Why are we, where are we going with this? Why is Batman acting this way? Why is the Guild such dicks to Batman? I don't know. I mean, they're not really. I'm just, anyway, one thing out of this I did like, though, I mentioned Elongated Man. So he's standing here. He looks really thin. He's got this logo on his chest that is different from what I remember his logo being, and his costume's orange and black, which I guess, not too far from the red and, was it red, yellow, and black in his JLA days? Anyway, so if that's Elongated Man, which I think it is, when did he get back? Or I guess I should say, I didn't realize he was back. And I did check on this, and it seems he has appeared in, back in 2016, he appeared in Suicide Squad issues 12 through 14. But it's just like a huge surprise to me that Elongated Man is back. And I always like Elongated Man. I prefer him over Plastic Man for sure. He's my favorite stretchy DC guy. So I'm just glad that the DC Universe has Ralph back in it, at least from my perspective now. So anyway, so not a very strong story to begin this milestone issue, but the next story makes up for it. So the second story is called Manufacture for Use. This is an 8-page story by Kevin Smith, Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Alex Sinclair, and Todd Klein. So I thought this, again, like the last story, it started out really well. I like seeing Matches Malone. I've always enjoyed that character way back when I first started reading Batman comics and getting into, or reading some of the late, I guess the late 70s, mid 70s. I don't remember when Matches Malone first showed up, but I distinctly remember when Batman became Matches, or took on the persona of Matches Malone in a story that I read, and he's used it off and on ever since. So that was kind of neat. But then we get basically pages and pages of monologue from the proprietor of the the Gotham gift shop, as he's talking to Matches Malone about the various things that, these underground tools and costumes and whatnot left behind from Batman's fights with the various villains in Gotham. And the proprietor, as he's talking, there was always the thing, what he was saying, and especially there was usually like one word that he emphasized, such as, here we go. So he would be talking about this stuff, and the image would be very closely related to some of the words that he's saying. So, for example, there's a panel here of Batman flying towards Mr. Freeze, and the guy is saying, but if you got the cold, hard cash, cold, come on. And there's a lot of that in here. There's a one with Batman about to take on. Oh yeah, here's Bane, and they're fighting. The caption is "must have broke their poor kid," break the bat, Batman's broken back. Just come on. It was just way too cute, way too meta for my taste. And so, but then we get to the end, and there's this nice little scene between Bruce and Alfred, where so the whole point of Batman going to this Gotham gift shop guy is he found out somehow that the gun that killed his parents, that proprietor, had gotten a hold of it. So he went and purchased it, and so he brings it back to the Batcave. And Alfred says, "So you found it. I never fought you on the giant penny, and if you recall, I threw my back out helping you get that bloody dinosaur down here. But Master Bruce, adding the gun that killed your parents to your trophy collection, that's too grim even for you. Where's the justice in letting this hunk of metal back into your life?" And Bruce says, "It's not going into the trophy collection, Alfred. The gun was never fired at me, but it still scarred me for life. Who knows how many other lives it's ruined or ended, but after tonight, it's never going to hurt anyone again." And we see him melting the gun down and making the plate, the metal plate that he puts behind his chest emblem. And he says, "So the metal that broke my heart as a child, that same metal will protect my heart as a man. And that is justice." And bam! Kevin Smith makes this a pretty damn good story. So, this was my second favorite story of the bunch because of that ending. So I will forgive a not so great setup if the ending of the story sticks it, and this time it did. And I will note that I think I enjoy that. I think I enjoy how Lee and Williams draws Bruce Wayne more than when they draw Batman, which seems kind of weird, but there you go. They also do a pretty good match as Malone. Okay, third story, Legend of Newt Brody, an 8-page story by Paul Dini, Dustin Nguyen, Derek Fridolfs, John Calise, and Steve Wands. So, this is kind of a fun little humorous story. I like the documentary style used in this. The art matches the comedic tone really well of the overall story. And I have to admit, I'm a stupid reader. I tend to focus on what's on the page, and I'm not thinking about what's behind the intent, the artist's intent here, where it's leading us. My mind doesn't work like that. It's after I read it that I go back and I reread it and I make connections, I make suppositions. Other people are much better at that than I am. But so in other words, I was surprised by the end what was really going on. Although I will say, before I got to the end, I did get an inkling. So I think it was the Riddler's story. I guess it was the way that Batman singled out Newt Brody, in that little recollection that seemed odd to me. And so I was starting to think, wait a minute, what's up with this Brody guy? So while I didn't actually figure it out, I did, but I knew something was amiss. So I guess I would make a horrible detective, is what I'm trying to say. I would not be allowed into the Bat fam, that's for sure. But I did like how the members of the Bat family portrayed Brody in these cases, especially Alfred. I thought that was wonderful. Different people can work on Batman, and we get slightly different versions of Batman. But man, when they do, and maybe it's one note, but when they do that real sarcastic Alfred, to me, that's that character. And I always enjoy seeing that consistency of that character. However, I did not like the way that Damian at the end was his bit, how he was portrayed, his assertion that he says, "Oh no one quits until I get to play," in reference to Batman saying, "Well, we should probably retire New Brody after this documentary has come out, this story." And so he runs off and comes back in dressed up as call me Newt Brody Jr. Yeah, that ending just really fell flat for me. All right, next story: The Batman's Design, 10 pages by Warren Ellis, Becky Cloonan, Jordie Bellaire, and Simon Boland. I honestly don't have much to say about this particular story. This is really just to show Batman, the ultimate planner. Somehow he has a plan for everything. So, his this case that these people he's chasing, he takes them out with ease. It's just a bunch of pages of Batman fighting, and I guess to show us he's the ultimate planner, like I said. So I don't find that interesting, and quite frankly, I thought this was a really, really weak story from Warren Ellis. This is not what I expect from Mr. Ellis. However, because of this story, I want Becky Cloonan and Jordie Bellaire regularly on a Batman book. Bellaire's use of like the warm and cold palettes in this story, because it's nighttime, so you get the coldness. There's a lot of fires, a lot of explosions, so you get the warmth of that. Just that dichotomy there, I thought was really well done. It's just beautiful. They make Batman look great, and I would love to see them do more work in this world. But I guess maybe not Mr. Ellis, which seems really weird to me because I'm such a big fan of his writing. Speaking of writers that I used to really, really like, not used to, I still like Mr. Ellis, but I used to really, really like Denny O'Neil on Batman. So Denny O'Neil, Steve Epting, Elizabeth Breitweiser, and World Design worked on the next story, which is Return to Crime Alley, which was an 8-page story. This one starts with a big splash page of this older woman screaming, "Bruce, no!" And it's this great Steve Epting art, because it looks like an older woman, a terrified older woman, and the art, of course, in the rest of this is just wonderful, as you would expect. But what I liked about this, so like I said, Denny O'Neil was one of my favorite Batman writers from the past, and he brings back a character that I have always liked being in the Batman universe, and this is Leslie Tompkins. Only this is the older Leslie Tompkins that I remember reading way back when, and here I think she's even older than before. So it was really neat seeing this character back. But I'm not sure the way. So what we see here is we get this her yelling "Bruce, no!" and then we do the typical flashback story to lead up to that, and basically they're just talking because this is the anniversary. Yeah, the anniversary of Bruce's parents' death. This is the spot where they died, and of course, Batman, being the obsessive guy he is, he has to return to the scene of the crime on the anniversary. Leslie knows that he'll be there, so she's there to provide some comfort, I guess. But when they're there, there's some kids. It's Halloween, I think. Well, or no, it's not Halloween. They break into a store, a party store, and steal some masks. And one of them happens to have a gun. You can see where this is going. So they decide that they're going to go up to this guy who's dressed like Batman and this old woman standing next to him and rob them. Batman, says, "How dare you pull a gun on me?" Or no, "You dare pull a gun on me?" And then smacks him around, and then smacks the other guy around, and smacks the third guy around. And he says, "One more." And that's when Leslie intervenes and says, Bruce, no. By the way, Leslie, thank you for betraying Bruce's secret like that in public. That was, probably a really good thing. But anyway, so, so that splash page, you get like, it's like, oh my God, what's Bruce doing, or what happened to Bruce, right? And it turns out that this is just her way of getting him to stop slapping these kids around. But it makes you think like, so like I said, it's either Bruce has done something really bad or something has been done to him. And in fact, I guess in a way it's both in this story. He's hurting these boys who, one of them maybe deserved to be smacked because he, pulled a gun on them. The others maybe not so much. But this is just Bruce's. This shows the rage and I'll say the fear. Coming out in him. He still relives the trauma of his parents' death, and that's part of that is the fear of that. And so, but how does Bruce Wayne deal with it? Through violence, in the name of protecting innocence. But anyway, I didn't feel like that splash page of what Leslie was yelling paid off in the end, I guess. But there were some nice moments. There was one point where Batman says to one of the kids, "You think you can hide behind that mask?" And of course, he's oblivious to the irony, just as he's oblivious to Leslie's point about how she says, "Can't you see he's already hurt enough? Poor thing." Batman says, "You feel sorry for him," and she says, "No, for you." So it just goes to show that Batman is, here at least he's not the uber superhuman person that we've come to know, the Bat God, I guess, as he was shown in the previous story. In some aspects, he still has a blind eye to certain things, and I like that. I really do. But I guess the nice little gems in here were a bit undercut by the overhanded nature of the prose. And that's kind of Denny Neal's calling card in a way, but I don't remember him being as overt about it, I guess, in the past. Okay, next up is Heretic, which is an 8-page story by Christopher Priest, Neil Adams, Dave Stewart, and Willie Schubert. I hear so often that Christopher Priest is such a great writer. I know he has a lot of fans out there. I know his Black Panther run it's lauded as one of the greatest. I've only read the first volume of that, and I agree that run is pretty good. I need to read more to really decide if all the hype is there, is worth it. But other things I've read of Christopher Priest, I have to say, it's kind of like Scott Snyder with me, where a lot of people think he's really good, but I don't. And this story is one of those. And I don't know if that has more to do with Neil Adams' involvement or what, but I'm still wondering, after reading this story, I don't know how many times, 3, 4, 5, what was the point of this? It seemed like a jumping off point to something coming later from DC Comics that Neil Adams is going to do. I don't know, and quite frankly, I'm not interested in this. It was barely a story, if that. It was the hint of a story. And I used to love Neil Adams' art. His 1970s Batman is, ranks up there like top 5 Batman artists to me, but I'm not loving his stuff these days. And also eyeball showing Batman and when he's wearing the cowl just disturbs me for some reason. It's wrong. It should be white eyes. I don't know why showing the eyes, which, in a real, reality based story makes total sense. I get that, but it's just one of those conceits that I don't think you should give Batman eyes when he's wearing the mask. That doesn't work for me. But, what I'm concerned about here is that I'm maybe writing off this story too much. And so if you have a different opinion about Heretic, please let me know, because I try to see, the good things in everything that I read. And I don't, other than maybe the art, and even the art seems inconsistent. But I don't know. Anyway, starting to repeat myself, so I move on to the next story by Brian Michael Bendis, Alex Maleev, and Josh Reed, called I Know. This is 10 pages. I'll start off by saying I love what the artist Maleev does with faces. So if you note old Bruce Wayne's face here, and so the fourth panel in the third row here, his eyes are closed. His head's kind of down, and then 2 panels later, his eyes pop open. I just the way it's almost basically right next to each other. It's like boom, boom. Closed eyes open. I know. I just really like that. And then we see old Penguin's face over the next several pages, where he's just sitting there. It's a very static looking set of images, but and normally I would say, you're just reusing art on the panels here. But it works for this story. So he's just sitting there listening to Joker's plan, and the rest of these villains kind of talk through, who is Batman? He must have another identity. Penguin is telling old Bruce this as he's recollecting this meeting. And then I guess they discuss who could be the person who has enough money to be Batman. And as Penguin says, who has the cash for it? Bruce Wayne. And then we see him watching Bruce Wayne and coming to the conclusion. But that's the thing I want to say about the face. So he's usually shown here kind of scowling. And then as soon as the Penguin decides Batman is Bruce Wayne, then his frown turns upside down. I just like that particular bit of storytelling in the way that Maleev does this. While some bits about the writing, I like the dialogue at the Rogues meeting, the one that I just mentioned, the back and forth there of some of the characters. Bendis he's a master at dialogue, as far as I'm concerned. What I did not like, though, was the Penguin's verbal tick, where he every once in a while he'll what's the word? Weep? It's WEYP. How else would you say that? But it's almost like he's burping. And oh my God, that got annoying really fast. And not a good thing. I don't know what the point of that was. Anyway, so we get back to where we're at the beginning of the story. So Batman, Bruce Wayne, he's old. He's in a wheelchair. Apparently he can't speak. And so this is when old Cobblepot, old Penguin, comes to him and basically is bragging that he figured out that Bruce Wayne was Batman and could have killed Bruce Wayne at any time, but did not, because he was waiting for this moment to tell Batman he figured it out. He out detected Batman. Okay. But on top of that, so like I said, his reason for telling Bruce, I didn't kill you because you would have, in the story, he was afraid that if he did tell Bruce before now, that Batman would have killed him back then instead of just killing him. I'm not sure why. So again, the motivations here kind of break down a little bit for me. But anyway, I liked how the timing of this, it just underscores Cobblepot's his own cowardice. Bruce even calls him a coward at some point in the story. Because he is now waited until Bruce is supposedly incapacitated to reveal how clever Cobblepot was. But of course, this being Batman Batman proves that he's even more clever because of what he because of what he does. So apparently Bruce has been playing the long con and made it known that he cannot speak, but he can talk. And his chair, just like his bat suit and Batmobile, there are defenses here, and he shocks the Penguin into incapacitation. And the final panel, ends with "Good visit." And it's a really simple. It's 2 words, a really simple ending. But I don't know. I like the humor of it. It just seems like something that sarcastic Batman would say. Next up is The Last Crime in Gotham by Geoff Johns, Kelly Jones, Michelle Madsen, and Rob Lee. This was an interesting story. I like Kelly Jones as a Batman artist, but this didn't really seem like the right story for him to do. I don't know. I'm not quite sure why. It just doesn't seem like, maybe it's not really taking advantage of his strengths. Again, this is one of those where I'm like, I'm just reacting to it, and I don't really have a good reason why I didn't like it so much. So, you tell me, what did you think about Kelly Jones on this particular story? Because I'm not seeing it. Although I did like that splash page of the Bat family here on page 2 of the story. But yeah, otherwise, I guess I did like, there's some transitions, artistic transitions from page 1 to page 2. So the first page is a birthday cake and someone's lighting a candle, and the camera, so to speak, zooms in on the flame, and we get closer and closer, and that transitions into the bat signal. And then we see the bat signal on the second page. So we get that. On pages 7 and 8, again the bat signal. Oh, in fact, it goes back. So we go from the bat signal in the story to it fades to gray, and so the cloud, the gray cloud, now turns into gray smoke from the candle from the beginning of the story. So, I like the way that flowed. That was really cool. What Mr. Jones and Michelle Madsen as colorist did. Here's another story where Damian seemed off to me, just as in the Scott Snyder, the Paul Dini story. Yeah. Damian doesn't, he's portrayed, I don't know, he's asking dumb questions for Damian. Damian is a smartass, thinks he's smarter than he really is, but he is pretty smart. And, I don't know. He just didn't seem like the Damian I know now, and you would think he would be even better as he gets older. But anyway, so there was that. Batman and Catwoman has a daughter named Echo. So she's dressed as, it's kind of like a mix between Batman and Catwoman's costume, but it's Echo, like echolocation. But she's wearing green gloves. I know, it's weird. It's a weird thing. Anyway, I did not know. Is this a thing? Is Echo as Batman's daughter a thing? I don't think so. I did some research. I couldn't find anything about it, but it's the first time I've encountered her. But so if you know anything about this character, let me know too, because I find this character fascinating. And she really only has a few bits of dialogue, so. I will admit that I misunderstood the ending. It turns out that the previous 7 of the 8 pages were a birthday wish for a family that Bruce makes of it, because he lights a birthday candle and makes a wish. And his wish, what we're seeing, I believe, is the wish. In other words, he has a family and there's no more crime to fight. Which, that's kind of a neat thing. That seems like a very Geoff Johns thing to do, but I didn't get it the first many times I read this story. Again, like I said, I'm more of a literal reader, and So I'm looking at what's on the page, and I'm not quite sure how I can get from this story that this is a birthday wish. Now, if Johns and company would have titled it a little differently, then maybe that would have been more of a clue. But anyway. And one last thing I'll note about the story: we do see the giant penny in here, and I kind of wish that the date on it would have been 1939 instead of 1947. That would have been a nod to Batman, the year of his creation. But the continuity nerd in me appreciates 1947 because that is the date on the penny in its first appearance in World's Finest number 30, at least according to my research. So I kind of like that too. And now we get to my favorite story, and it's only 5 pages. And it's written by James Tynion IV, which, like Scott Snyder, not always my favorite. The rest of the creative team is Alvaro Martinez Bueno, Raul Fernandez, Brad Anderson, and Sal Cipriano. Holy highware. I think I might like Tynion's writing now. I was very pleased to see Dick Grayson being celebrated in this milestone issue. I might be in the minority for thinking this, but if it wasn't for Robin, I don't think Batman would have survived this long. He would not have made it to 80 years in comics. He also probably wouldn't have made it, in story, because raising Dick Grayson as Robin, and the personality that Dick developed over time, I think allowed Bruce to heal some, to open up, to allow him to be close to another human being that wasn't a transactional one. And that I'm being unkind to Alfred in that description, but that's almost a employer-employee relationship, even though it's really not. So, but with Dick Grayson, I think maybe it opened that door and allowed Bruce to heal, like I said, a little bit. So that aside, like I said, I really enjoyed the fact that they celebrated Robin here. This is basically a conversation between Alfred and Batman. Just after Batman takes Dick Grayson in after his parents are killed at the circus. And this is a little different take to me for Alfred, because usually we see Alfred arguing against Batman bringing on youngsters into the Bat family. But to be fair, this is the first time he's done it. So maybe Alfred, as I said just a few seconds ago, Alfred sees the potential here to help Bruce and also to help Dick Grayson. And so, like I said, they're mulling this over together, and we get this great page 2 of this story, where we get the summation of Dick Grayson's life in one page, where his parents have been murdered. He becomes Robin. He makes friends with the Teen Titans. He finds love with Coriander Starfire. And as Alfred says, you can give him closure, a way past that sacrifice. And with that, the little things, friendship, romance, they will be easier than they ever were for you. Bruce responds, but this life, Alfred, the darkness in this city can be overwhelming, all-consuming. Alfred, it will look different in the eyes of a young man. He will see the excitement, the adventure, and he will help you see it too. So I love that. That's a great summation of what Robin is to Batman. And of course, and then here at the bottom of page 3, we see him as Nightwing in this flash forward, I guess. I love what Alfred says here. You know how highly I think of you and your abilities, to Bruce. He says this, but he can make you better. He could be better. A hero forged in the light. And that, to me, is the perfect description of Dick Grayson, especially in terms of his relationship to the rest of the DC universe. I think that is awesome. I think that if DC Comics, the company, would not be so IP obsessed and allow these things to develop over time, it'll never happen, and I know, whatever. Dick Grayson could become the greatest hero in the DC universe. Anyway, so the whole point of Bruce and Alfred's talk was, should we do this? Is this the right thing to do, to bring this boy into this? And towards the end of the story here, Dick has been listening in on this whole conversation because he's been hanging from the chandelier in the room. And he comes down and says, because Bruce is worried about the precedent this is setting. And he says, Dick says, all I'm saying is the cat's out of the bag. It has been since you first put on the cape. I'm not the precedent. You are. And you're just the start. You're showing everyone a new way to fight back. People are going to notice. People are going to act. So let's show them how to do it right. And I love that Tynion gives Dick Grayson here the agency, and it doesn't come from Bruce. It comes from Dick Grayson himself. So, and then we get this great splash page of the oath that Batman has Dick Grayson take, and we have a wonderful image of them together as Batman and Robin. God, I love this story. The art is fantastic. It evokes a bit of Silver Aginess in here with a modern sensibility. I love all of the flash forward stuff. Like I said, the Teen Titans when he's Nightwing, and I don't know. Everything looks great in this story. I love the lighting, the color. It's just wonderfully done. This is a great team here. Put them on Detective Comics after, at the next switchover, creative team switchover. The next story also involves family. So basically, what the last three stories we have had. Yeah, so Last Crime in Gotham, The Precedent, and now this one, Batman's Greatest Case, an 8-page story by Tom King, Tony S. Daniel, Joel Jones, Tomeo Morey, and Clayton Coles. It's really all about the Bat family and family. So I like how they're throwing these things in here, but it's odd that they would put, I don't know, odd. It seems odd to me for some reason they would put 3 stories about family back to back to back. I think it had less to do with choosing that and more to do with how are we going to put these different 8 and 10 and 12, well, in one case, a 12-page story in here. So we get this, I will say the typical, but I like it, the typical Tom King dialogue between these characters. Lots of people talking. We got these little pairings of characters. You got Dick Grayson, you got Nightwing, Damian Robin, Red Hood, and what's his name? The Signal? I can't remember his name now. His other name. You've got Tim Drake, Robin, Spoiler, Batgirl and Batwoman, Huntress and Cassie Kane, whatever her name is right now. I don't remember it. Anyway, and then Catwoman and Alfred. So you got all these people in here. They're waiting for Batman, waiting for him to show up. And so they're basically all these little quips. So, Dick and Damian, they're swiping each other, mostly Damian to Dick, but, Dick gives a little bit back to him. Red Hood is concerned that Batman's going to fire him because of something he did. Batgirl and Batwoman are discussing why Kathy is Batwoman and Barbara is a girl. I don't know. I think really the only ones who get this is Huntress and Cassie. All they do is talk. Yes, you don't talk. No, I like you. I like you too. So I like some of those things. I don't like, however, some of this. At one point, Barbara says, "I've dated Dick Grayson. You dated Dick Grayson?" And then they come back to that whole dating Dick Grayson thing. It's like, come on. We don't need that. Worse, though, the worst offender here is this panel between Tim and Stephanie. She says, "I kind of want to make out." "No, just a little bit." "How do you make out just a little bit?" "I like this question. If I show you, is that an answer?" "No." "Maybe." I mean, Tom King does certain characters really, really, really well, and then other times you get this. I don't know what this is. This is not it. Should not be in here. But anyway, besides that little complaint, I really like the story. We see Batman going to the grave of his parents, and we get that again. But then he shows up. We get the interspersed locales here from earlier in the story to now. He shows up on the roof with all of his family members, and then we cut back to him at the gravesite. But it's just dialogue between the family members, and then all this was an opportunity. Bruce has decided that, as it says in the end, that's the question, right? Since the very beginning, his question, his mystery, and it's taken him this long, a lifetime of work and pain. But he followed the clues, interrogated the witnesses, let the facts lead him. He did what other men wouldn't or couldn't, and in the end, he found his truth, which is what we saw on the previous the double page splash of the entire Bat family together, and Bruce is taking a picture of the family. And I loved this. I don't like how, in my copy at least, Batman is basically almost split down the middle because of the gutter here, because of the binding. But and I think I saw something online about Tony Daniel saying he had to change this shot because it was even worse than what it turned out to be. I'm not sure why that was, or anyway, why they didn't do something a little different. But here we have everybody, like I said, all those people I named, plus the dog. The dog shows up. I loved it. I thought it was great. And then what follows are 3 pinups by Mikel Janín, a 2-page pinup by Jason Fabok and Brad Anderson, which actually is very much like the previous one that we had, but it features not only the Bat family but also the Bat villains. So I guess you get that. And I forgot to mention the Mikel Janín is Batman coming upon Joker and the Riddler. It almost looks like an unused cover or something from the War of Jokes and Riddles. And then finally, the last one is one by Amanda Conner and Paul Mounts, where Batman's on I would say gargoyle, but it looks more like an eagle. But it's I like it and I don't like it. It's you see the spirits of his parents reaching toward him, and the broken pearl strand of Martha Wayne's broken pearl strands, they're kind of breaking off, and it's almost like they're forming stars, like a constellation. But it's just it's kind of odd the way that Thomas Wayne is holding his wife. It's almost like they're supposed to be dancing. I'm not sure exactly what this is supposed to be evoking. So it's weird. And then finally, just as Action Comics 1000 did, Detective Comics 1000 ends with a story that leads you to the next 1000, or the start of the next 1000 issues of Detective Comics. And this is Medieval. It's a 12-page story by Peter Tomasi, Doug Monk, Jaime Mendoza, David Barron, and Rob Lee. And what we get is a bunch of dialogue and splash pages of Batman encountering various villains throughout the history of the character. It reminds me heavily of what Tomasi and Monk did in Action Comics 1000. I really love this team, and I love how they're celebrating his history through time. But this is the caption boxes is really focused on how poorly Batman has done, in particular in Gotham. In fact, at one point, you get the last page and we see the Arkham Knight, and this is the point of this. The Arkham Knight is saying, "Batman, say it fast, really fast." as fast as you can, over and over. So what do you hear? Bad man, bad man, Batman, bad man. To me, now and forever, one and the same. And so now we're getting into the next story arc of Detective Comics. I have to say, just like the Action Comics 1000 story, I did not like this. I understand why DC does this. It makes a lot of sense, I guess. Keep people reading, interested. I really like I said before, I like Tomasi and Monk doing stuff. But although Monk isn't doing the art on in 1001 and beyond, but I really like Tomasi's writing, generally speaking. But this was I'm flash forward a little bit out of continuity here with what comes after Action Comics 1000. I'm not really digging this the Arkham Knight story, but we'll see where it gets. So, but anyway, it was fine. Like I said, nice little pinups of Batman through the ages and with his rogues gallery. I like that aspect of it. So there we go. It's unfair to compare Detective Comics 1000 to Action Comics 1000, especially since Superman is one of my very favorite superhero characters of all time. Batman is not. Not that I don't like him. He's just not my favorite like Superman is. It's Superman, Dick Grayson, maybe Batman. But anyway, so like I said, maybe it's unfair that I am comparing them, but I can't help but do so. I think I liked Action Comics 1000 just slightly more. Maybe a little more than slightly more. But I quite enjoyed Detective Comics 1000. Here's to another 1,000 issues of Detective Comics. Of course, I probably won't be alive unless they go weekly. But, for the future, you future people, you future readers, I hope you enjoyed Detective Comics number 2000. Okay, with that, I will leave you. Like I said throughout this, if there are things in my assessment of these stories that you agree or disagree with, you can let me know that. Email me at longboxreview@gmail.com or leave comments at longboxreview.com. I would appreciate it. And if you would, go to Apple Podcasts and give me 5 stars and leave a great review. Would you? Would you please? I would appreciate it very much. And with that, I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.